Okay. Should we give a couple of minutes for people to join? Let's just fix at the moment. Oops. I'll give a minute or so for people to join, and then I'll kick off. All right, it's I guess 2 minutes past. Maybe we'll kick the session off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you all from wherever you are joining. Today's topic is modernizing legacy application to enable digital transformation and obviously the AI adoption. We have three fantastic panelists on here, Nuwan, Chamara, and Zhou. I will let them introduce, and then I'll go into make a context as to how the panel will be discussed. I just want to, from a logistics perspective, also wanted to highlight the fact that you can ask the question in the Q&A panel, and also wanted to highlight the fact that Chamara has recently working on a book called Definitive Guide to Digital Transformation. And we would love to send you a copy of that as well, or rather Chamara would love to send you a copy of that for the folks who are interested. So please feel free to reach out after the session. You can indicate that in the chat as well. So without further ado, I would love to get Chamara to maybe start his introduction, and then we can go around the others.
Thanks, Kanchana. My name is Chamara Somaratne, and I'm the founder and CEO of Anthosa Consulting. Anthosa was born out of the need to help organizations craft boutique strategies, because we felt like a lot of the strategies that were created by large consulting organizations were just copy and paste of what's being created for the customers, and we felt like that was not really helping customers preserve their unique differentiation and the DNA. So in 2018, I took the step to actually introduce a new way of creating strategies by working with clients and alongside clients. So and that's what Anthosa focuses on, mainly helping organizations work with their teams to develop a strategy, rather than someone coming from outside and creating a strategy for them. We work with the clients to develop the strategy for the clients. Pass on to Nuwan to introduce himself. Nuwan.
All right. Thanks, Kanchana. Thanks, Chamara. So my name is Nuwan, and nice to meet you all who are joining today. So I'm a VP and a product manager here at WSO2. So I play the product manager role for a product called Choreo that we launched a couple of years ago, which is what we call as an internal developer platform. So a bit of history of me: I've been in WSO2 for a long time, playing various roles in the engineering side of the business. So I've been primarily focused on and leading engineering teams on our open source side of the business. And since a couple of years ago, I transitioned over to Choreo, and I'm playing the role of product manager there. So yeah, that's it from me.
Over to
Zhou?
you, Joe.
All right, thank you so much. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Zhou, and I'm a developer advocate at the company called Dragonfly DB. Dragonfly is a modern drop-in replacement of Redis. Yeah, but it's much more performant. And yeah, I met Chamara and Nuwan like a while ago, and yeah, thank you again for this opportunity to join as a panelist. Delighted to be here.
Thank you, Joe, Nuwan and Chamara. Sorry, I apologies. I didn't actually introduce myself. I'm Kanchana Wickremasinghe. I operate out of WSO2's Melbourne office in Australia, and I'm one of the VPs and GM, and I run the Choreo BU globally. Now, in today's topic, we're going to be talking in three areas. Why legacy modernization? Why is it kind of important? I think legacy modernization is always an evolving thing, and we're going to tie that into like how that actually resonate with digital transformation. And obviously, we can't not talk about AI adoption because it's helping from both the sides as well. And it's going to be more like a panel discussion. So I'll be asking the panelists questions. And obviously, like I said earlier, the Q&A panel is available for you all to ask questions as well. And we may interrupt and take the questions, so we may answer the questions first and then come to your questions. Right? Yeah. So with that, so what I'm gonna do is ask the first question from Chamara. Chamara, so what strategies do you think have proven effective in overcoming employees' resistance in the digital transformation initiatives? Because this is one of the, I guess, big things that keep coming up, especially when you start the digital transformation. They go, "Oh, this is not new. We have done this. We have been here, etc." So I'd love to hear your thoughts, and then maybe the other panelists can chip in as well.
Sure. No, thanks. And I think it's a great question, and one, Kanchana. I think, like in my introduction, I hinted at a couple of things that are useful for navigating this challenge of employee resistance. But I think if I take two steps back, to me, I think one of the biggest challenges with digital transformation that I've seen in the industry is that there's a lot of different meanings to what digital transformation is. Everyone, depending on their spin, they actually try to say this is what digital transformation is, right? And if you talk to someone from marketing, they will say, getting our message out there onto digital platforms for digital marketing and social media engagement, that's digital transformation, right? And then if you speak to someone from a cloud background, they'll say, moving all your apps to cloud and being able to optimize your infrastructure, that's digital transformation. And then if you speak to someone from operations background, they'll have a different meaning, right? And then this is actually one of the reasons why I thought this book that I'm writing is useful as well, because it will actually provide clarity around what are the different aspects of different digital transformation, because it's actually not about just one of these things, it's about all of these things. It's about how do we move from a fundamentally digital way of working, right? And then that's what digital transformation is. And I think, like, if you take the question that you asked, Kanchana, how do we overcome the resistance? I think, like, one of the first things is how do we actually put a clarity around what is digital transformation? How does it resonate from the organization's perspective? For the people that are working in the organization as well as the customers, how do we put that clarity? So how do we create that shared vision and a shared purpose? How does it make us better as an organization? How does it help us improve our services to customers? And creating that clarity to the employees of the organization is probably the step number one, right? And then I think, like, in my introduction earlier, I spoke about how co-designing strategies is one of the things that we focus on, right? And to me, I think this is actually one of the biggest things that I've noticed, because quite often what I've seen is someone might bring in a consultant, and the consultants will work with the client for a few weeks, and then they'll all of a sudden whip up this magic formula and bring up a strategy on a 120 slide deck, right? And quite often it's not well understood by anyone in the organization, and there's no clear ownership of that strategy, right? So that's actually one of the other reasons that I've seen that a lot of people tend to I guess not come along the journey. So that's why we take the steps to try and work with the client to create the strategy. So that way we work with the leadership to try and understand what the leadership intent is, and then we work with the more broader teams to actually co-design the strategy with them. And throughout these workshops, what we do is actually we create that shared understanding and shared ownership, right? And then when you create that shared understanding and shared ownership, that's quite vital for somebody to say, yes, I was part of creating this strategy. I know how it helps my organization. I know how it helps our customers, and I want to be the champion that actually pushes this forward, right? So we create those champions within the organization. So I think those are probably the two main factors. But to me, I think that there are a lot of other things around how a lot of organizations are moving into this engineering-led way of operating. And as you know, engineers are, I guess, a special bunch, right? They have their own preference for how they like to work. They don't like to be dictated to. They like to be given freedom to operate, right? So I think when you're creating those strategies, you need to take that into account. And I think if you take that into account and give them the intent and the outcome you're looking for, and tell them to come up with the solution, then that's actually one of the best ways to try and bring a lot of the engineers on the journey. So I think like those are probably the three main aspects that I would address as part of trying to overcome employee resistance.
Thank you, Chamara. And Nuwan, George, you guys want to add anything to what Chamara said?
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, I think Chamara covered most of it. And I guess the kind of resistance that we see in different organizations is, I could call it even cultural. It depends on various cultures and various backgrounds of people. So something I've noticed is sometimes the resistance comes due to the unknown, due to the fear of not knowing what's really going on. So people tend to have this habit of looking at the bad side of things and ignoring the good side of things. It's like the auto drive in Tesla, right? So when the Tesla crashes once in a while with auto drive, we tend to see it as, okay, it's a bug in the auto driving system. It didn't detect this use case and so on, and tend to criticize it. But if you step back and look at it, it actually prevents more accidents than humans would be driving themselves, because it sees all around you. It can predict the speed, calculate, do all those calculations. So in reality, it reduces lots of the accidents, but we tend to only see the crashes and the places it fails. So similarly, when you introduce something new and unknowing, people tend to look at the bad side of it only and ignore all the goods of it. So like Chamara said, I think it's very important to keep them informed, keep them in the loop, make them understand, and take them along the journey. So that's has been one of my observations.
Thank you, Nuwan. That's a fantastic analogy. To be honest, I think how it's I guess your perspective on how you look at things, right? Yeah, and obviously, like in the case that you said, the media also blows out things as well, and then everybody get excited. It's one bloody mistake that's going to cause the chaotic world, right? Zhou, do you want to add anything before we move on to the next question?
Right. I just want to say I totally agree with what Nuwan and Chamara said. It's delightful. Yeah, for us, I kind of it's funny because you know I kind of want to do a like shameless plug here. Dragonfly is a drop-in replacement of Redis, right? So when we try to sell Dragonfly, it's like the same car. If you look at Redis and Dragonfly, it's the same car from the outside, but the underneath engine is different. Then how do we persuade our customer, and how do they introduce Dragonfly to their organization, right? So it's an hard sell and an easy sell depending on like from what perspective you're looking at it, right? So I totally agree that it shouldn't be that we just throw this to our team, to your employees. Instead, we should grow and probably educate them and grow the whole team together. We understand things together, so that it's a much easier, smooth process, I would say.
Thank you. Given that you already got the mic, so I guess the next question maybe I'll point to you. So resources are always limited, right? I mean, we keep on saying that there are, obviously there are a lot of people can be employed, etc. But when you think about modernization, resources is an issue. How do you prioritize this in terms of applying people to legacy versus the resources that get allocated to modernization? What are your thoughts around that, Joe?
Right. That's a great question. So yeah, when resources are limited, how do we prioritize, right? So yeah, first off, I look at like our topic today. I think on a second thought, I think legacy doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but if it's like stable and it's good, maybe you can continue to do your modernization or digital transformation already. But I'm pretty sure that everybody here, like the developer community, you all have seen that picture where the very shaky stick was holding the whole thing, like the whole right, the whole building, the whole architecture. That means your legacy could be bad, right? So if that's the case, then yeah, and given that we have limited resources, what we should do, I would say it's like a natural process to go with the low-hanging fruits first, right? So go with the problems that are obvious, right? For me, I would say like for like in a development environment, you should probably find the ways to improve the developer experience, to reduce your DevOps, your operational efforts, and probably cut your infrastructure cost. Right. For instance, when I first start to work with Nuwan, I didn't know what WSO2 is. I didn't know what Choreo is. Right. But in order to prepare for this discussion, I tried Choreo. You guys just please go try it and see how easy it is for you to deploy your code. I did it myself, like from signing up and everything. It took me like 5 minutes, right? So I think to me, that's what a modern developer experience should be, no matter if it's for an individual like me or it's for like a whole team, right? So yeah, give it a shot. Another example is where I work for like for Dragonfly, right? So you guys probably know Redis. So because Redis is written 15 years ago, right? So it utilizes a single core of your server machine very well. But because it's mostly single-threaded, it doesn't utilize your multi-core modern cloud servers very well, right? So in order to scale on hardwares like this, you need to kind of start to thinking about the different architecture, maybe do a clustering even on that single machine, right? So that kind of raised the question to me where should everybody on your team be an Redis expert in order to run it, right? Instead, like, as a developer, probably all I care is that I care about the API, I care about the commands that I use, right? And I kind of expect things to be stable, just right there. So yeah, so maybe things you can consider is to look for like more modern alternatives of your existing technology. In this case, probably replace Redis with Dragonfly. In your DevOps CI/CD case, probably try Choreo. So yeah. To sum up a little bit, I think, evaluate, first look at your system. Is it's legacy? Okay, but is it really bad? If it does, try to figure out what are the low-hanging fruits and find those ones which can like improve the overall efficiency, like developer experience, like operational cost reduction, like infra cost reduction within your organization, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. And Nuwan or Chamara, do you guys want to add anything before we move on?
Yeah, maybe quickly. So something that we do in WSO2 and something I believe is the right thing to do is to, when you want to modernize something, instead of planning out the work, something that I think we should do is, look at what you really want to be, look at the experience that you want to generate first. So always start with that, and don't think of implementation or technology or, what it needs. So first figure out what you really want to give, maybe to your employees, maybe to your customers. So that's, I think, a very important step to do right at the front. usually that gives you a good idea of what you have to prioritize. And if there are still, some gray areas, sometimes metrics such as, effort versus value against each of those things helps you come up with, what are the things that you can, deliver with less effort, but can produce high value. So at the end of the day, I guess it gets into a judgment call right at the end. But deciding what you want, the experience that you want to give very upfront, I think is very, very critical before you jump on into the work. And then maybe a metrics can help you get to that judgment call a little easily. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to add.
Thank you, Nuwan. Chamara, do you want to?
I think the answer was quite comprehensive for that from Nuwan and Zhou both. I think if anything, the only thing I might add is just more looking at it from a, I guess, funding perspective. Most organizations don't have an unlimited budget. So when you have a limited budget, you really need to focus on what Nuwan mentioned, prioritizing and seeing where things can add value the most. And I think, if you look for areas where it improves the customer experience 10x, or B, it helps the whole organization to move at 2 times the fast of speed of that they're moving currently. Those are the kind of things that you want to focus on. Either it moves the whole entire organization faster, or B, it drives a significant customer experience improvement, right? So if you use those 2 areas as kind of like the driving force for your decision making, usually you'll end up in a good place.
Thank you, Chamara. We do have a question from the audience. Let me read it out. And I guess one of you can, or all 3 of you can answer. The question is related to monitoring systems. Need to know, this is from Nuwan Pereira. Need to know exactly, do we need to implement monitoring system with HA? I guess that's high availability for others' reference. And reserve more resources. Is it worth when we are moving applications to modernization? I guess the question is, I guess 2 parts to it: monitoring systems, implementing in a highly available manner, and allocating resources for it, versus if we are modernizing, is it really required? I'm hoping I got the question correct. One of you can go in first.
Yeah, maybe I can add something. So, when it comes to monitoring systems, I guess this part is a little bit critical, because this is all about the customer experience, whoever your customers might be. So even while you may in the phase of modernizing, and you may feel like, okay, it's not really worth to invest in monitoring the old system because we are coming up, we are building up with a new system. But monitoring, I think, is still critical, because it all has to do with customer experience. It's really important to retain the customer experience where they are right now, in addition to building the new experience that they would be getting in the future. So I think investing in monitoring is very critical. So my advice or general guideline would be, yes, make sure the systems are up and running most of the time, irrespective of whether they are legacy or modern. And of course, then comes the cost factor, the effort factor, and everything. So yeah, just get into that. So if you're talking millions, things that you don't have, then maybe, again, it gets into a judgment call. But I think still monitoring those systems, making sure they're up and running most of the time, irrespective of whether they are the old one or the new one, is still very critical.
Thank you, Nuwan. Chamara or Zhou, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think I think what I was going to say was very similar to what Nuwan mentioned. Yes, it's important to have a baseline when you're trying to drive any change, right? So monitoring systems is the way to try and establish that baseline in terms of where are you, in terms of what their digital experience is for your customers, right? So yes, monitoring will help you with that. Most monitoring systems will support that. Like, Anthosa actually worked with a pool of 3 different monitoring providers, Zavix, Centrion, and Dynatrace. The main reason why we actually have these 3 different partners in that space is because we know some of the customers' environments that we go to, they have different monitoring solutions. And then we've seen that, these 3 are these three are some of the most common monitoring systems used for monitoring legacy systems, and that's why we've actually partnered with the three partners. But having said that, they are not the only partners, monitoring systems providers. And then just going back to your question around, whether is HA available or not, sorry, HA useful or not. I guess it as Nuwan said, it's a judgment call. But I think like what I've seen mostly is most of the modern monitoring systems are cloud based. So if HA is needed or not is usually quite irrelevant from a monitoring systems perspective. But if you're talking about the HA aspects of your applications themselves, I'd say how you want to implement the monitoring on your applications themselves is dependent on how you actually run your workload. If you run active workloads across your HA systems, yes, then your monitoring should span across the HA environment. But if you're running an active passive, then you can set it up in a way that you monitor only the active instance. But when you have a failover to the passive instance, then you can swap over your monitoring as well. And so that's probably the other aspect of that. And also, I think most organizations are kind of like starting to move into the space of continuous modernization. And I think like when you talk about this continuous modernization, I think having that monitoring to see how much you improving every step of the way is a usual capability to have. Sorry, Kanchana.
No, Chamara, that was good answer. Add on to what Nuwan said. Zhou, do you want to add any last bits?
Yeah, I have a very quick one. I like this question a lot. So HA is always interesting and tricky. It's kind of like a insurance that probably you never use. That's a good, right? That's a good ending as well, right? So
yeah.
My 2 cents is that as Chamara said, like many of the services out there, even the dedicated database systems for things like monitoring, they are like themselves, many of them, they're already like HA. So my take is that if that's the case, but obviously we as probably developers and DevOps engineers, you kind of want to have the grasp, but sometimes it's okay to, because there are too many of them, too many things. Sometimes it's kind of okay to let it go in terms that you already paid for the infrastructure. So don't let it cost you more in terms of your operational effort, right? Someone else that is more expert in that domain, let them do the operation, no matter how complex that service is, no matter how complex that monitoring database is, right? It's already designed, and that the people who design it handle the operational side of things for you, where you just treat it as a highly available system for your monitoring. Maybe that's a good strategy, the build versus buy thing. So yeah, but
Thanks,
awesome.
Joe. We do have another question, but perhaps we take it. I guess it's related to the resource thing. This is from Mies. If we have limited resources, which one should you prioritize first? I think this is related to the question you guys just talked about. So he's giving an example. The example is the system upgrading an application, migration, etc. Or he's asking the skills to do the upgrade or training, hiring people. Which one of these resources you would prioritize first?
And I think the answer is actually you can't move with either just one. You'll need both in place, right? Because you need the system knowledge as well as the people skills to proceed, right? So it's about picking something that's small enough that you can get the knowledge quickly enough, as well as train your people quickly enough, and use that as the way to try and create a proof point, right? And I think like if you pick something small enough and create a proof point, and then when you build several proof points in the process, right, then you can actually build a case for getting the budget that's needed to training a large group of people that you need to actually drive the change forward, right? So it's about what's the smallest application that you can pick and move that actually will give you that proof point. And I think that's the way that I tend to address this most often.
Thank you. I guess we'll move on to the next question as well, because I wanted to touch on a little bit about the AI as well, because this is keep coming in, especially in terms of the modernization and even on the greenfield side. I guess this question I'm going to point to you, Nuwan. In organization, right, so AI keeps coming up. So one is part of the modernization journey, and also once you modernize, also to use AI in what you enable for your end customers, right? How do we actually effectively give those capabilities to the team, right? Like, how do we skill them up? I guess that's a fundamental question. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think organizations now have the responsibility of getting their developers to, upgrade their skills, right? So, most people tend to think of this as, how do I program better in an AI world, and, how do I, keep my skills intact? How do I make sure I'm still relevant in the organization? Right, so I see it as a little bit differently. I see it as it's time for developers to upgrade their skills to the new world. You need to understand, what role AI plays, what are the new ways of programming. So if you have been programming, just, traditional applications that we have been doing for a long time, and now when you want to do, build applications, there are newer ways of thinking about it. Like there are RAG applications, there are LLMs in place. You need to understand what these are, and how you are supposed to program in the new world. So that's I think a critical thing. And enterprises, like organizations, have the responsibility of somehow forcing their developers to to get into that space. So something that we are doing in WSO2 out of many is forcing every engineer in WSO2 to obtain a Copilot license, and force them to use it in their development work. So the experience, the value, and the return that they get from such systems. And also running hackathons once in a while, saying, okay, build a new AI tool for this part of or an AI feature for this part of the product, something like that, right? So, and conducting technical workshops within the organizations is also something that we do internally. We call these tech talks, right? So people can go in, listen to them, and see and experience. So I think these are some of the areas that developers, they themselves have to get into, and at the same time, organizations also have the responsibility, I think, to somehow force developers to look at those things, learn and experience, and upgrade themselves to face the new and upcoming world.
Thank you, Nuwan. Yeah, brilliant answer. Zhou or Chamara, do you guys want to add anything to what Nuwan said? This is again, I guess I reiterate, like how do we upskill and help the team within the organization, whether it is modernization or once modernized, applying the AI capabilities into what they're doing.
Yeah, I think Nuwan addressed it quite well. If anything, what I might add to it is like this behavior, or this habit of continuously upgrading yourself. Never stop learning, because I know as tech people, we got into this space because we know it's quite exciting. We know there's a lot of new things, but sometimes we do get bogged down by the day-to-day. When the day-to-day get bogged down, becomes a bit of a burden. Quite often most people say, yes, I don't have the time to learn that now, I'll learn it later, right? So make sure you don't do that, right? Make sure you have a set time to actually read things or watch new things, or go on a new program, a new training program that you've been looking at, right? Make sure you make that time available, make it a habit.
Thanks, Chamara. Zhou, do you want to add anything before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I think the great answers. I just want to add a very short one for myself. I do like blog post at Dragonfly, right? So when the first AI hype came in, I didn't first time try it, but after I try it, I'm not building the model myself. I'm just using the models, right? So try it. It's not really that scary, and from there, that kind of builds the confidence. And yeah, you have if you're interested in more depth stuff, that's probably a good starting point as well.
Thank you. While we're on the AI topic, I guess I'll throw this question at you, Chamara. In what ways the technical debt in legacy systems? Obviously, I think this is a very debatable topic because technical debt has been there in many evolutions we have had. Obviously, some areas technical debt is getting better and better. Some areas you still carry on technical debt for various reasons, right? But in the topic of what we are talking today, how is AI is going to help, or what capabilities do you think that would help?
I think. Oh, yeah. I think there's two aspects to this, Kanchana, right? So one is obviously the maintainability of your code base, right? So if the maintainability of your code base is poor, yes, of course, it's gonna hinder any progress, whether it be adding a new feature or whether it be adding a new API to your code base so that your data can be made available, right? And then on the other side, it's also more the data accessibility, right? And then nothing like if you're talking about that in the context of a single application, it's probably not a problem, not much of a problem. But what you will see when you go into most enterprises is you have some in-house built applications, some software packages that you acquired from outside and deployed on the cloud, and then you also have these SaaS solutions that you're starting to consume, right? So when you look across these different systems that you have in the organization, they create these data silos, right? And AI as a capability actually has a lot of value it can bring in terms of being able to see end to end of a value chain or a value stream, right? So if your applications are actually splitting the value stream into multiple segments and you're creating data silos, that's going to hinder your ability to see the end to end to add any analytical capabilities across the end to end performance of that value chain, right? So being able to bring that data into a shared area where you can actually access that data, that's going to be a prerequisite before you can start moving forward to actually see that end-to-end performance using advanced analytics, right? So I'm not talking about AI itself here, but it's just more advanced analytics, right? But advanced analytics is still an area of algorithmic in inference you can drive in an organization, right? So that's the aspect that I see as being hindered most often.
Thank you. Thanks, Chamara. Joe, Nuwan, do you guys want to add anything to what Chamara said?
No, I'm good. I think Chamara covered the answer. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. But before me moving on, I think there was a second part to the question. Nuwan Pereira, sorry if we missed that. So let me read it out. The second part to his first question around the migration aspect, around the monitoring part. Moving to application modernization, how should we consider security? And he's saying that from his experience, that so many security guys only consider like the VM level hardening or server level hardening, right? So what platform do you suggest to improve the security side of the application modernization? I think that's the last part of his question. I'm happy to go at it, but I would love to hear from you guys first.
Well, okay, I could add a little bit. So I think this is a fantastic question and something we deal with WSO2. We try to solve at WSO2 very, very hard. So, and this has been our exact observation as well. People tend to think of, security from a very narrow lens point of view. You either look at just the VM level security or just the network level security or just the entry point security and so on. But there's a whole diverse aspect to security when thinking of modern systems. And, I could keep on going about this for a long time, but just to put it simply, so this platform that we are building called Choreo is designed exactly for that purpose. So we try to do everything from VM level security, container level security, code level security, and then of course, network level security, entry point security at firewalls, API gateways, and everything. So there's a whole spectrum of security you have to look at when it comes to modernization, because modernization most of the time now means moving into some kind of cloud, using cloud native systems, doing microservices, right? So this is a whole new ball game. Think of a traditional VM application. You have one big box you could point to it and say, well, this is my application. But look at a modern application today, right? When you had that kind of an old application, it had one entry point, and you secure that entry point, you're all good, right? There's nothing, you just close the gate or open it for whoever is allowed. But think of a modern applications, you have several microservices. These guys are talking to each other, talking outside the network, and all of a sudden you have 25 different entry points into your system in various forms and technologies, right? So this is a whole spectrum, like I said, and there's a whole series of things you have to look at. So what we are trying to do is exactly solve this problem, get the applications onto our platform and give this end-to-end security, which covers the entire spectrum, as we see. So there's even an article called Zero Trust Security with Choreo. So you could Google it up, and that's a fantastic article written by someone called Lakmal, one of my colleagues. So it covers the entire spectrum. So that will give you a good idea of what areas to look at and think of.
Thank you, Nuwan. Great answer. Zhou, do you want to add anything from your end?
Yeah, I really like this question about security. So yeah, it's something that everybody know is important, but we always kind of think that, oh, this maybe can be taken care of later. That kind of stuff. At Dragonfly, we don't have as much complex problems to solve as Choreo needs to solve. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean that we do pay a lot of attention to that as well. For instance, if you say log into the Dragonfly Cloud console, we have like two first-class resources that you can create. The first is the data store itself, right? It's like a Redis compatible data store you can create. And the second thing is a private network. And from there, you can create peer connections to your infra. So yeah, I guess why we put those two resources, especially the private network, as one of the first class, that's simply because security is very important in our domain as well, because Dragonfly Redis, they're very fast. They can also validate or invalidate passwords a million times per second as well, right? So if your things are running under the public network, it's probably very risky to your business. So that's why, and in the meantime, especially for us, when we solve this security problem, we also kind of avoid the data transfer cost as well, right? So by doing that, you're solving two things at once. So I think it's a huge benefit there. So yeah, I'm glad to see that Nuwan, the attendee, who put security, at a very top priority. It's a good practice, and yeah.
Thanks,
yeah.
Joe. Much appreciated. So next, I guess we talk a little bit about the, some of the intricacies of, legacy to modernization and digital transformation, and also a bit about how AI could help and, how you could adapt within the organization and what things we need to do. Next, I guess the question gets asked, Chamara, this I'm going to point this your way. The ROI, return of investment, right? You're starting a digital transformation project. How do you really demonstrate or measure the return of investment? Because most of the digital transformation projects span across years, right? If it's not for 3-5 years. And obviously, yes, it is a learning thing as well and keep on evolving, but these questions keeps coming up, right? So love to hear your thoughts and what others think as well.
Yeah, no, I think that this is very important for digital transformation, especially I think like if you look at the statistics, I think less than 30% of transformations are successful in most organizations. If you look at the McKinsey, HBR, and Bain BCG statistics from their research, right? But if you look at digital transformations, I think the success rate is even lower, right? So I think that the ability to measure ROI is definitely a key factor for figuring out how do we actually make sure that the transformation, A, it's delivering value, and then B, you're getting a good return on investment, right? So, and I think that there's probably two things that I want to bring up from that statement, because I think I mentioned about the delivering value, right? So sometimes I think it's important to think of ROI as actually VOI, so value on investment. And the value on investment can actually be, it can be the dollar value in terms of how it improves your ability to deliver services to the customer, if it increases your throughput, right? Or it can actually be value on investment in terms of how it helps you to increase your customer experience, right? And then the third aspect that people don't tend to focus on too much is actually if by putting something into the organization, if it actually helps you to move faster as an organization in terms of your transformation. For example, like introducing a internal developer platform like Choreo that actually helps the entire organization move faster. That's value on investment as well, right? So I think that taking that lens of moving away from ROI to VOI, looking at how it actually delivers value for the organization is actually quite an important shift that a lot of organizations need to start focusing on, right? And the other aspect of that is obviously when it comes to early stages of digital transformation, I think most organizations tend to do this sort of big planning, big design upfront for the entire transformation. And I think this is one of the things that Anthosa does very differently. We actually don't do that big design upfront for transformation. What we look at is actually how do we break the transformation down into small incremental changes that we can drive in the organization, and how do we bring some of those incremental pieces where we can deliver value quicker as some of the earlier initiatives that we want to prioritize, right? So that's one of the things that we quite heavily focus on. And the other thing is also, I think I mentioned about this, looking for proof points and using the proof points as the way to drive the traction in the organization, right? So the reason why I mentioned that earlier is because the methodology that we use is what we call scaling a transformation. A scaling transformation is about thinking of your transformation as a startup inside your organization. So when you're actually creating your transformation, you're actually creating a new entity in the organization that helps you move from A to B, right? Your organization is A today, and in the future, it's going to look completely different. So let's call it B, right? So when you're moving from A to B, you want to move it in a way that, the smaller initial changes show value, deliver value, get everyone excited about it, and then scale the transformation across the organization when you have sufficient proof points, when you have sufficient value being delivered into the organization. That's when everyone will actually come on the journey with you.
Hey, thanks, Chamara. Great answer. And Nuwan, Joe, do you want to add anything to the ROI question, which obviously keeps coming up all the time? So love to hear your thoughts as well, guys.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I can do a better one than Chamara. So I like really the idea of saying, well, don't look at the ROI, look at the VOI, right? So I think it's all about that. So if it brings value, then the ROI is not really a question to ask. So
different way of answering it in a yeah. Thanks, Nuwan. Joe?
No more to add. Great answers. Great answers.
Right. Yeah, I'm just looking at the clock. I think we have only about 10 minutes left. So if there are any other questions from the participants, love to get those questions now. But let me jump into the next question, which is also going to be related to AI, and I'll throw this at you, Nuwan. What strategies do you think help to bridge the gap between the traditional way of doing the development, and now I would say like AI with either AI copilot or AI augmented development practices?
Yeah, so I think the key here to understand is that this requires a mindset shift in getting everyone to believe that AI is now complementary to their jobs, right? So as long as that mindset can be established, then the strategies will follow is what I believe. So what I'm basically trying to say is any given task to an engineer, to a developer, there are various forms in which AI can help you with that, right? It could be with generating your code. AI now knows how to generate most of your code, right? So you can definitely use those tools to generate code. Of course, you still need, human beings to make sure they are of good quality, they solve the right problem, and so on and so forth. And then it could be for generating tests, like when you are given the problem of, okay, you need tests for your code. then you have to look at, okay, how can AI help me in this aspect, right? Generating documentation, right? You have to look at, okay, how can AI help me here? Generating pipelines. If you're using, if you're doing deployments manually, how can I generate pipelines using AI? So I think the key aspect is this mind shift change to realize that AI can basically help you in almost every aspect of your job. So as long as that mindset is well established, then I think the strategies will naturally follow. For every aspect of your job, you have to look at how can it help me, help me do better and help me do things fast and with better quality, right? So I think that's the key to get that mindset in place, saying that we now live in a world where AI can help me in every aspect of my job.
Thank you, Nuwan. That actually reminds me of the talk that another Nuwan gave at the WSO2 conference, right? About the 10x engineer or the 3 10x things. We will actually share that link because I think that will also add value to what Nuwan just said. It's actually a fantastic talk and has some really good references as well. Well, with that, I'm actually going to ask Zhou and Chamara also with anything you guys want to add.
I think Nuwan spoke about the code generation aspect, right? And that's definitely the quite a big value add. But I think just thinking about the time when I used to develop in anger, one of the things I used to hate was actually documentation. And I think I see that as an area where developers can actually get a significant value from AI, especially once you actually give the pseudocode or even your actual code and ask them to generate an overview of what a particular class or what a particular function is. AI can actually do this superbly, right? So I think that's an area that a lot of the developers can get a lot of value. And also, I mean, I work with a lot of customers in Australia, and obviously we have a lot of team members that work from either India or Sri Lanka or some of the Southeast Asian nations, right? And I mean, I don't think of this as something necessarily bad, but I think there is a communications skill level gap, right? And I think I see the AI as something that can actually bridge this communication gap, because even if it is somebody who doesn't have the same level of communication from a spoken language or even written language, and I think being able to use AI to bridge that gap in terms of your communication ability and using it to actually improve your communications and improve your interactions with your stakeholders is an area that can add a lot of value, right? To me, I think those are probably the 2 things that I might add to the great answer that Nuwan gave.
Thank you, Chamara. Zhou, do you want to add anything to what Nuwan and Chamara said?
Yes, I totally agree with the answers. I kind of want to give like a slightly counter example here to demonstrate like why developers and engineers are still gonna be super valuable, and some of the risks as well, right? So I read this article where there was that company, they have like a product that is growing, and one day for some reason they decided to convert their whole code base from Node.js to Python. And I guess the reasoning behind is because they want to be closer to the data analysis ecosystem, right? So in order to do so, they utilized AI tools to help with the conversion. So for the majority of the part, it works very well, right? But because, Node.js, I suppose they use JavaScript instead of TypeScript, but both the languages are not compiled. And in terms of like raw performance, they're kind of on the same level, the same order of magnitude, right? So personally, I don't think it's a very good idea, but they have their reason, right? So what happened after the conversion is that every day they're like new users, they're able to register to certain times, and then after the certain times, they don't allow new users to register, and they strive to figure out what the bug is, right? So the risk as well as the value of developer engineers is still here. Like AI still they still make hallucination. They still make very annoying small mistakes here and there, right? So yeah, be sure to utilize the tool, but in the meantime, show the value of yourself, which is like you are the human being that is able to validate things. That's quite crucial, right? And the full
sorry, go on. Go on.
The full story ends here. Like, so after the conversion, the Python ORM expect something to return a UUID, right? So in Python, that ORM allows just a UUID string or a function that returns a UUID. So they put the UUID instead of a function that returns a UUID. So after all their 64 containers exhausted, they don't have like new UUIDs. It is that stupid, but it's crucial. And, that's where, again, you can show your value by somehow, catch that error. But on the other hand, to me, myself personally, I think a much reasonable approach is that if the conversion is to a more type safe and expressive language like Scala or Rust, it wouldn't be a problem because that signature wouldn't allow such a thing, right? So know your risk and do the right thing, do the right validation and proper testing there as well when utilizing AI tools. It definitely very beneficial, but be aware of the risk as well.
Thank you. Given we are almost at top of the hour, I know I would have loved to have a couple of more questions, but I guess if from the three of you, we talk about the legacy modernization in how it resonates with the digital transformation, and especially the new, the AI adoption and utilization of AI in the journey. What are the if you were to say to the group here, the participants, what are the couple of the key takeaways out of our discussion that you would want to leave it? Maybe Chamara, you can start.
Sure. I think starting with a clear purpose on why you're driving the transformation is definitely a good way to get things off to a good great start. And I think breaking things down, bringing more value-added activities to the front and focusing on things that are easier up front to actually demonstrate value, then they are definitely important things to focus on. And I think the other thing that I might go back to, which I might mention again, is probably that ability to break down data silos in organizations, because I see this as one of the biggest challenges most organizations will face as they go through the AI adoption, right? And Anthosa actually has another event coming up on the 5th of February, where we are working with another partner, MongoDB, around how we can actually create a shared data layer for AI adoption. If anyone's interested, I strongly suggest joining that session. And I think that's going to be a key factor for organizations going through digital transformation and AI adoption, because being able to create that digital experience by having a shared data layer across all the legacy systems, all the SaaS systems and anything in between is important. And I think once you create that shared data layer, then it will actually help you with their legacy systems, because it helps you to create microservices on top of your data layer and then break that transactional dependency on the legacy systems. So when you actually break down that transactional dependency on the legacy systems, it will help you with to move faster and have more, I guess, leeway in terms of how any legacy system changes will directly impact your customer-facing systems, right? So that's an area to focus on. So I think those are probably the two things that I might highlight. And obviously not forgetting that the point that I made earlier about value on investment. So it's not just ROI, it's value on investment, right? That's what we all need to be focusing on.
Absolutely. And Nuwan?
Yeah, so something quite related to what Chamara said. So quickly, if I would say the key takeaway for me in like digital transformation projects is the key thing to focus on is make sure you focus on what adds value to your business, to your project, right? Whether it is to your customers internally or whether it is to your customers externally. So make sure that most of your investment in terms of time, money, technology goes into that aspect, because we are now living in a world where those underlying repetitive things can be abstracted out, where we really can not focus on the underlying building blocks, things that you do repeatedly day to day. There's platforms like Choreo that can help, there's AI that can help. So you really can focus and put most of your effort on the thing that adds value to your business. So that would be my key takeaway for everybody.
Thanks, Nuwan. Joe?
I have a very similar idea. Yeah, like know your goal. Like when you adopt AI, is that what's the purpose? It's for external, internal, customer facing stuff like that. From there, identify the bad legacy part, and probably start with the low hanging fruits, and even have a system that can continuously probably evaluate the ROI. Yeah, so. Great
Thank you.
answers. To me, I learned a lot today from you all. It's great.
Yeah. So with that, I thank the panelists as well. Thank you so much for all the answers. And to the people who have attended, this was recorded, so we will share the link as well for you all if you all want to watch later. And for the others who couldn't join today, also will be available if they have registered. And lastly, the book to be released by Chamara, which is titled Definitive Guide for Digital Transformation, How to Overcome Challenges of Digital Transformation in Technology Modernization and Artificial Intelligence Adoption or AI adoption. So if you would like to get a hold of a copy, please email it to the group, and we will make sure that you guys have a copy of that as well. And once again, thank you so much, and also thanks to Sam as well for hosting and organizing this too. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks all.